My name is Chloe Evans. I'm 24, and most days my life feels like a complex logistics puzzle with too many moving parts and not enough resources. By day, I'm a logistics coordinator for a mid sized shipping company near Philadelphia, scheduling trucks, tracking shipments, solving problems under pressure. It's a decent job, steady, requires a sharp mind for details, something I seem to have inherited from, well, not from my parents. By night and weekends, and any moment in between when a bill comes due, I'm the unofficial financial manager and primary income source for the household I still, regrettably, live in. The house itself, a pleasant enough split level in suburban Pennsylvania, technically belongs to my parents, David and Susan Evans. But the weight of keeping it afloat rests squarely on my shoulders. Dad lost his longtime engineering job 3 years ago during company wide downsizing and never quite found his footing again, settling into a pattern of bitterness and sporadic, low paying gigs. Mom works part time at a local bakery, bringing home the scent of yeast and sugar, but not much else in terms of income. My younger brother Liam is 17, a talented, quiet kid with a passion for music and art, currently navigating the stresses of junior year of high school. The real albatross around our collective necks, however, is the second mortgage. Years ago, before the layoff, Dad sunk a huge chunk of money into a can't miss restaurant venture with a friend. It missed spectacularly, leaving them with crippling debt. To avoid bankruptcy back then, they took out a massive second mortgage on the house. Since Dad lost his job, the responsibility for making that crushing monthly payment, plus utilities, plus internet, plus groceries more often than not, fell silently, inevitably onto me, the only one with a stable full-time income. I do it because, well, because it needs to be done. Because the alternative is foreclosure. Seeing my parents and Liam lose the only home they've known. Because somewhere deep down, despite the constant resentment simmering beneath the surface, the ingrained sense of familial obligation my mother instilled in me is hard to shake. But it comes at a cost. My own savings are non existent. My dreams of getting my own place, maybe going back to school for supply chain management, feel impossibly distant. My life feels perpetually on hold, tethered to their precarious financial situation. And appreciation? That's in short supply. My contributions are expected, accepted with a kind of entitled resignation, rarely acknowledged beyond a vague, oh, Chloe handles the bills. Tonight was Christmas Eve, usually a night for warmth, for family, for cheer. In our house, it just meant another layer of financial stress masked by forced festivity. Mom had baked cookies, the scent warring with the underlying tension in the air. Dad was nursing a beer, staring blankly at the flickering lights on the slightly lopsided tree. Liam was sketching quietly in his notebook at the end of the table, trying to disappear. I served the simple dinner I'd picked up after work, forcing a smile. So, Dad began after a long, awkward silence, setting his beer down with a thud. Liam's been doing really well with his guitar lately, really showing promise. I braced myself. This conversational opening usually preceded a financial request. His teacher says he has real talent. Mom chimed in, picking at her green beans. Thinks he should apply for that intensive summer music program at Berkeley. That's great, Liam, I said genuinely, glancing at my brother, who flushed slightly but looked pleased. Problem is, Dad continued, his gaze shifting to me. It's expensive. Tuition, housing in Boston for 6 weeks. We were looking at probably close to $7,000. My stomach tightened. I knew exactly where this was headed. We were thinking, Chloe, Mom said, her voice taking on that pleading, slightly manipulative tone I knew so well. Since you're doing so well with your logistics job now, maybe you could help Liam out? Just a small loan, cosign perhaps? It's an investment in his future. He could really make something of himself. I looked from my mother's hopeful face to my father's expectant one. $7,000. On top of the mortgage payment that consumed nearly half my paycheck. On top of the utilities. On top of everything else. For a summer music program? An investment in a future as uncertain as my own? Something inside me, worn down by years of silent sacrifice and mounting resentment, finally snapped. I put my fork down calmly, took a deep breath. No, I said. The word hung in the air, sharp and unexpected. Silence descended. Liam froze, his pencil halfway to the page. Mom blinked, her hopeful expression crumbling into disbelief. Dad's face darkened. What did you just say? Dad asked, his voice dangerously low. I said no, I repeated, keeping my voice steady, meeting his gaze directly. I can't. I'm already paying the second mortgage to keep this roof over our heads, plus the electric, the water, the internet. I am stretched to the absolute limit. I cannot co-sign a loan or provide thousands more for a summer music program, however talented Liam is. I glanced at my brother apologetically. I'm sorry, Liam, but it's not feasible. Dad slammed his hand on the table, making the plates jump. Not feasible? You're making good money. What are you spending it on? We barely see you contribute. I contribute the second mortgage payment. I shot back, my own voice finally rising, years of suppressed frustration boiling over. The one you took out for your failed restaurant. The one that keeps this house from foreclosure. That, plus almost every other essential bill. What more do you expect? We expect you to help your family, Mom cried, tears starting to form. Liam deserves this chance. And what about my chances? I demanded, standing up now, my hands shaking. When do I get to save for my own future? When do I get to have a life beyond keeping this house afloat because of your past mistakes? I refuse to co-sign another loan that I'll inevitably end up paying off myself while you two tell me I'm not doing enough. Dad stood up too, his face red with fury. Ungrateful after everything we've done for you. Living under my roof. Your roof? I practically pay for this roof. If you feel that way, he snarled, his voice trembling with rage, if you think you're too good to help your own family, if you're such a burden, he pointed a shaking finger towards the door, then get out. Get the hell out of my house. Now. The words struck me silent. Get out on Christmas Eve because I refused for the first time to sacrifice my own financial stability for their demands. Susan's mom tried to weakly protest, David, don't say that. But he waved her off. Liam looked horrified, tears welling in his own eyes. But me? After the initial shock, a strange, cold calm descended. Okay, if that's how it was going to be. Okay. Fine, I said quietly, my voice devoid of inflection. If that's what you want. I turned without another word and walked towards my bedroom, ignoring my mother's tearful protests, my father's continued sputtering rage. I closed my door softly behind me and pulled my largest suitcase from the closet. My hands were steady now. The decision had been made for me in the ugliest way possible, but it was made. A soft knock came a few minutes later. It was Liam, his face pale, eyes wide. Chloe, please don't go, he whispered, stepping inside. He didn't mean it. What about the house? The mortgage payments? They'll lose everything. His fear was palpable, not just for himself, but for the precarious stability I represented. I sat on the edge of my bed, pulling him down beside me. Listen to me, Liam, I said softly but firmly. This isn't your fault, and it's not your responsibility to fix. They made these choices. They need to figure it out. I squeezed his shoulder. You focus on your school, on your art. Stay safe. You'll be 18 soon. I promise. I met his tear-filled eyes. The minute you turn 18, if you still want out, I will come back and help you. Okay? He nodded mutely, wiping his eyes, the unfair weight of the world settling on his young shoulders. He hugged me tightly, then slipped out of the room. I finished packing quickly, methodically. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, important documents. By midnight, the house was dark, silent. I could hear the faint sound of the television drifting from the living room downstairs. They were watching a Christmas movie, pretending nothing had happened. Before I left, I sat down at the small desk in my room, opened my laptop one last time, logged into my online banking and utility portals. Electricity provider, remove autopay, delete payment method, confirm. Water company, remove autopay, delete payment method, confirm. Internet/cable provider, remove autopay, delete payment method, confirm. My secondary credit card, the one mom used for emergencies, usually groceries or online shopping. Cancel card. Confirm. It took less than 10 minutes. A few clicks, severing the financial lifelines I had provided for years. I didn't touch the mortgage account directly. I wasn't on the loan, but my voluntary contributions would simply cease. I zipped my suitcase shut, took one last look around the room that had been my cage for far too long, and walked quietly down the stairs. The living room light cast a sliver under the door, the canned laughter from the TV audible. No one came out. No one called my name. I opened the front door, the freezing December air hitting my face like a slap. But this time, I didn't shiver from the cold. I felt strangely light, free. I loaded my suitcase into the trunk of my beat-up sedan, slid into the driver's seat, and closed the door, the sound echoing in the silent, snowy street. As I pulled away from the curb, leaving the house and its suffocating weight behind me, I knew one thing for sure. My life, from this moment forward, would be entirely my own. The cost of their Christmas Eve eviction was about to become starkly, undeniably clear, and it wouldn't be me paying the price anymore. Olivia opened her apartment door near midnight on Christmas Eve, looking groggy but immediately concerned when she saw me standing there, suitcase in hand, snowflakes melting in my hair. Chloe? What happened? Long story. I mumbled, suddenly exhausted. Major blow up with the parents, got kicked out. Can I crash on your couch for a night or two? Of course, get in here. She pulled me inside her small, warm apartment without hesitation, already grabbing blankets from the linen closet. Olivia, my sharp-witted colleague from the logistics firm, didn't pry. She made me tea, listened quietly as I gave her the barest outline, and offered unwavering support. You did the right thing, setting a boundary, she said firmly. Stay as long as you need. That night, curled up on her sofa, listening to the distant city sirens instead of the tense silence of my parents' house, I felt a profound sense of relief wash over me, quickly followed by a wave of anxiety about Liam. But for the first time in years, I felt untethered. The peace, predictably, was short-lived. I went back to work immediately after Christmas Day, losing myself in the familiar complexities of shipping schedules and customs declarations. Work felt safe, logical. Home, or rather my parents' home, did not. The text from Liam started 3 days after Christmas. Liam, Chloe, internet's down. Mom can't pay the bill online. Says her card isn't working. Me. Not sure, Liam. Maybe she should call the provider. Liam, an hour later. Power just went out, like completely off. It's freezing in here. Dad's yelling. Me. Check the circuit breaker or call the electric company. Liam. Mom did. They said the account holder removed autopay and payment is overdue. I stared at the message, a cold, grim satisfaction mixing uncomfortably with worry for Liam. It was happening faster than I expected. I hadn't intended for them to sit in the dark and cold exactly, but consequences have sharp edges. I was the account holder. I was the one whose bank account had kept the lights on and the Wi-Fi running for 3 years. Now that I was no longer physically present, neither was my financial support. Then came the inevitable call from my mother, Susan. Her voice was high-pitched, bordering on hysterical. Chloe Evans, what did you do? The power is off. The internet. The water company just sent a shut-off warning. The account holder removed the payment method. That was you. You need to fix this right now. Your father is furious. Mom, I said, keeping my voice deliberately calm, measured. I was asked to leave the house, remember? On Christmas Eve? I simply removed my payment information from the bills associated with the residence I no longer occupy. Paying the utilities for the house you and Dad live in is now your responsibility. Our responsibility? How dare you? We can't afford this. You know your father isn't working steadily. This is cruel, Chloe. Selfish. After everything we've done for you? Everything you've done, I repeated, the calmness starting to fray. Or everything I've done to keep that second mortgage paid and prevent foreclosure for the last 3 years? You seemed perfectly happy with my contribution then. That's different. That's family, she shrieked. No, Mom, I said, my voice hardening. That was enabling, and it's over. Figure it out. I ended the call before she could reply, my hand trembling slightly. Dad called next. I let it go to voicemail. The message was short, clipped, laced with menace. Chloe, fix the damn bills, now, or you'll regret it. I saved the voicemail, forwarding a copy to my own secure email. Just in case. The real escalation came 2 days later. I was at work trying to focus on tracking a delayed shipment when an urgent text from Liam popped up. Liam, Chloe, be careful. Dad losing it. Found Mom's old notebook with passwords written down. He's at the dining room table right now trying to log into your bank account online, swearing because it's not working. My blood ran cold. He wouldn't. He couldn't. But of course he would. Desperation and entitlement make a toxic cocktail. I immediately logged into my online banking app on my phone. Sure enough, multiple failed login attempts from an unrecognized device, followed by password reset requests sent to my email. I quickly changed the password to a long, complex monstrosity, enabled every two-factor authentication option available, remotely logged out all other sessions, and blocked the IP address associated with the failed attempts, likely their home internet. My heart pounded with a mixture of fear and fury. He actually tried to hack into my bank account. Thanks, Liam. I texted back. Changed everything. Stay safe. Lock your door if you need to. That evening, I told Olivia what happened. Her eyes widened. Chloe, this is getting serious. Trying to access your bank account? That's illegal. I know, I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I don't know what he'll try next. I found out the following night. Olivia and I were just finishing dinner when there was loud, aggressive banging on her apartment door. Not knocking, pounding. We froze, looking at each other. Chloe Evans, I know you're in there. It was my father's voice, slurred slightly, thick with anger. Open this damn door. We need to talk. You owe us. Olivia looked terrified. Don't answer, she whispered. He pounded again, harder this time, rattling the door in its frame. You think you can hide? You selfish brat! Turning off the heat, trying to ruin us. My hands were shaking, but this time it was pure adrenaline. He had tracked me down. He was harassing me at my friend's home. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? My father is outside my friend's apartment, attempting to force entry and making threats, I said, keeping my voice as steady as I could, relaying the address Olivia whispered to me. He appears intoxicated. I feel unsafe. The pounding continued. We could hear him yelling obscenities now. Within what felt like seconds, but was probably 3 or 4 minutes, we heard heavy footsteps on the stairs, then firm voices in the hallway. Sir, step away from the door. Sir, calm down. We heard muffled arguing, then silence. A few minutes later, a police officer knocked politely. Olivia opened the door cautiously. The officer explained they had identified my father, David Evans, confirmed he was intoxicated and causing a disturbance. They had issued him a stern warning about harassment and trespassing and escorted him off the premises, advising him not to return. He didn't physically try to break down the door, the officer explained, so we didn't make an arrest this time. But we have it on record. If he contacts you again or shows up here, call us immediately. After the police left, Olivia locked the deadbolt, her face pale. Chloe, she said quietly, you can't stay here. It's not safe for either of us if he knows where you are and he's acting like this. She was right. As much as I appreciated her kindness, I couldn't put her at risk. My father, denied access to my money and losing control, was becoming unpredictable, potentially dangerous. I needed to disappear again, more thoroughly this time. I felt like a fugitive, hunted by my own family. The exhaustion was profound, settling deep in my bones. This wasn't just about cutting bills anymore. It was about survival. Leaving Olivia's sanctuary felt like another small defeat, another step backward, forced upon me by my parents' escalating chaos. But Olivia was right. I couldn't endanger her. I called Hannah, another colleague from the logistics firm, known for her calm demeanor and spare bedroom usually occupied by her visiting sister. I explained the situation briefly: family issues, needing a safe place temporarily, emphasizing the harassment incident without excessive detail. Hannah, bless her practical heart, didn't hesitate. Come on over, Chloe. The room's yours as long as you need it. Moving my few belongings for the second time in as many weeks felt deeply unsettling. I felt like driftwood, tossed about by a storm I hadn't created but couldn't seem to escape. Settling into Hannah's quiet guest room, I tried to focus on work, on rebuilding some semblance of normalcy. I kept my phone on vibrate, ignoring the blocked numbers that still occasionally tried to breach the silence. I needed distance. I needed peace. That peace lasted less than a week. A text from Liam arrived one afternoon while I was deep in sorting out a complex international shipping route. Liam, Chloe, urgent. Mom took your spare car key, the one you left on the hook by the back door last time you visited forever ago. I saw her drive away in your car this morning. Liam, seconds later. And I saw her carrying your old laptop out yesterday. Said she was selling junk to pay the overdue electric bill. Disbelief warred with a surge of white-hot anger. My car? My laptop? The spare key I'd forgotten about? She hadn't just ignored my boundaries. She had actively violated my property, resorting to theft like some common criminal. After kicking me out, after my father harassed me. This wasn't just desperation, it was a deliberate, vindictive act. Any lingering shred of guilt I felt about cutting off the utilities evaporated instantly. Enough was enough. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was illegal. I immediately contacted the police department again, referencing the previous harassment report involving my father. I explained the situation: the illegal use of my vehicle, the theft of my laptop by my mother, Susan Evans. They advised me to file a formal report and suggested a police escort if I needed to retrieve any remaining essential belongings from the house. The next morning, heart pounding but resolved, I drove back to the familiar suburban street in a borrowed car, a police cruiser following discreetly behind. Walking up to that front door again, this time with two uniformed officers standing back on the sidewalk, felt surreal. My mother answered the door, her face paling when she saw the officers. "What is this?" she stammered. "I'm here for my car key, Mom," I said, my voice cold, level. "And my laptop, and the few personal items still in my old room. Officer Miller here is just ensuring a peaceful exchange." She started to bluster, deny, cry, her usual tactics, but the presence of the police cut through the performance. Dad appeared behind her, looking furious, but also, for the first time, perhaps a little scared. "Give her the key, Susan," he muttered. She reluctantly produced my spare car key. "The laptop. I needed the money," she began. "That's called theft, Mom," I stated flatly. "And it's been reported." I retrieved my remaining boxes from my room under the watchful eye of Officer Miller, ignoring my parents' alternating whispers of threats and pleas. Before leaving, I handed my father a formally prepared document my temporary lawyer helped draft. This is a cease and desist notification and a notice of intent to file for a permanent restraining order if any further contact or harassment occurs. He stared at it, speechless. I turned and walked away, getting into the borrowed car, didn't look back as I drove off, the police cruiser following until I was safely out of the neighborhood. Liam texted later that day. "Dad got bailed out by Gary, left angry. Sent me texts saying you'll pay." I immediately forwarded screenshots of Liam's warning and the earlier threatening voicemail from Dad to Officer Miller, adding them to the report and strengthening the case for the restraining order, which was granted temporarily soon after. I changed my phone number that day, giving the new one only to Liam, Olivia, Hannah, and my grandparents. Complete cutoff. The following year or two were focused on rebuilding. Liam turned 18, finished high school with decent grades despite the chaos at home. True to my promise, I helped him navigate the confusing world of college applications and financial aid. He decided on community college initially, wanting to stay local but away from the house. I helped him find a room to rent with friends, co-signed his lease, a calculated risk but one I took for him, and gave him a small nest egg from my own slowly recovering savings to get started. Seeing him finally free, pursuing his own path, was the first real ray of light in a long time. News about my parents trickled through occasionally via Grandma Eleanor or Grandpa Arthur, who I now spoke with regularly. Without my substantial contributions covering the second mortgage and utilities, the inevitable happened. They defaulted. Foreclosure proceedings began. They eventually lost the house, forced to move into a small, run-down rental apartment across town. David, my father, struggled to find consistent work, his pride making him difficult to employ. Susan continued her part-time bakery job, the weight of their financial ruin aging her rapidly. I felt a distant sadness for the loss of the house itself, the place holding complicated childhood memories, but no guilt for their circumstances. They had made their choices long before that Christmas Eve. I finally saved enough to get my own small apartment in a quiet neighborhood in Philly, closer to my work. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Every square foot earned, safe, peaceful. I excelled at my logistics job, receiving a promotion to team lead. The stability I craved felt solid beneath my feet. And then something unexpected happened. Talking with Olivia one day about the local community struggling with rising utility costs and eviction risks, an idea sparked. My own experience, the panic of shut-off notices, the desperation, combined with my professional skills in logistics and organization, maybe I could help. I started volunteering evenings at a local nonprofit that provided emergency assistance to families facing utility shutoffs. At first, I just helped sort donations. But soon, I was using my logistics brain to help them streamline their resource distribution, map out delivery routes for food banks, coordinate volunteer schedules. Finding efficient solutions to help people stay warm, keep the lights on, access essential resources, it felt incredibly purposeful. It wasn't about erasing my past, but about transforming its painful lessons into something constructive, something that offered the kind of practical support my own family had weaponized against me. One evening, after a long volunteer shift coordinating emergency heating oil deliveries before a cold snap, I sat in my quiet apartment, looking out at the city lights. Liam called, excited about an art class he was taking. Grandpa Arthur called just to chat. The life I had built felt right. It wasn't the life my parents wanted for me, but it was authentic, resilient, and, in its own quiet way, making a difference. The old wounds were still there, faint scars beneath the surface, but they no longer dictated my present. I had cut the toxic strings, established firm boundaries, and in doing so, found not just peace, but purpose. And that felt like the best kind of beginning.